Hello, everyone! My name is Talia, and I will be teaching the wonderful Greek myth of Theseus. Now, I don't know if you've already heard it from one of the other presentations, but if you have, well, just sit back, because you're going to hear it again. Now, this story starts with not Theseus, but his mother and father. You see, his father, Aegeus, the Athenian king, left his wife to go back to his kingdom while she was still pregnant. But before he left, he told his wife of a little task he left for the child, should it be born a boy. He left a pair of sandals and a sword and a hollow before covering the entrance with a boulder, and said to her that when the boy was old and strong enough to uncover the items he left, that then and only then would he be allowed to seek his father out. Well, safe to say Theseus succeeded, or else we wouldn't even have a story, you know? He picked that boulder up and tossed it aside like a rag doll, and gained possession of the items his father left for him before he finally set off on his adventure to seek Aegeus out. Now, Theseus, being the hero of the story, and the adventurer by heart, wanted to take the most dangerous path to make a name for himself, and decided the sea was the coward's way. So off he went by land, and it wasn't long before all Greece sang praise for his deeds, felling villains left and right, killing them the same way they killed others as a sort of twisted justice. There was one that stood out to me. You might know him, Procrustes. If you've read the Percy Jackson series, he was the one who sawed people's legs off. You remember him? Yeah, that's him. So, after all this, he's finally made it to Athens and is standing before his father, who of course doesn't even know who he is and is afraid of this very big, strong guy standing in front of him. I mean, hello, he left before the guy was even born, hence the reason why he said, "Shall it be born a boy?" He didn't even know what gender the baby even was supposed to be, so of course he didn't connect the dots with Theseus being his son. I mean, who would? Anyways, he didn't know who he was and was scared, so Medea, you may know her from the story of Jason and the Argonauts, she knew who he was, thanks to her hooky-padooky powers. My word of the day for magic. You like? Yes, you like. You do like. You do! And thought of him as a threat to her, and so proposed they poison him. So just when Theseus takes his cup, he decides to make himself known to his father, and drew his sword, the very same sword Aegeus left behind. Immediately recognizing the blade, Aegeus dashed the goblet to the ground, while Medea escaped in the confusion. After all this, Aegeus made Theseus' identity known, and was widely accepted, but of course trouble and adventure is never far from our dear little Theseus, now is it? For not long after he found out about a terrible event that takes place every 9 years due to ill judgment on his father's part. You see, years ago, Minos' son, Aegeus, was staying as a guest, and his father thought it would be a good idea to send the youth to kill a dangerous and savage bull. And, well, I'm sure you can guess, but I'll tell you anyways, it wasn't the bull that died. So, of course, Minos was ticked about losing his son, and so invaded and captured Athens before declaring that every 9 years they were to send 7 men and women to him as tributes to be sacrificed to the, wait for it, the Minotaur! Dun dun dun! Now, the Minotaur, that is a whole nother story, but I'll tell you it anyways. You see, he was half human, half bull, a result of Minos' wife and Pasiphae and a bull. I know, shocker there, but still gross. Gifted to Minos by Poseidon, who wanted to give him back as a sacrifice. But you see, this bull was so breathtakingly gorgeous that Minos just couldn't do it. So Poseidon, ticked off about his would-be sacrifice, cursed Pasiphae to fall for the bull, and thus the Minotaur was born. It was after this that Minos hired Daedalus, the genius inventor, to create the well-known inescapable labyrinth to keep it trapped. So Theseus, hearing of the happenings, convinced his father to let him volunteer as tribute. Wow, Hunger Games reference much? So he could have a chance to kill the beast and save the others. Seeing his father's confliction, Theseus said that he would give a signal upon the ship's return whether he was alive or not. The ship had a black sail, and should it still be black upon his return, he was dead. Dead, as in dead. But should it have been replaced by white, he was alive and well. Now, upon arrival to Crete, it finally happens. The maiden appears. Ariadne, Minos' daughter, fell for Theseus at first sight and ran to Daedalus, genius inventor, remember, to find a way to save him, and came back with the advice to lay yarn upon the path from the door so that he and the others could follow it back out. But in return, that she asked that after he escaped that he take her away to wed. And hey, Theseus gets adventure, glory, and a wife who is a princess who also has hooky-badooky powers. Who was he to say no? He had it good, if you ask me. And so he defeated Minotaur. Hooray! Got the glory and the girl, but the happenings after that tend to follow two different versions. First was the basic, he deserted Ariadne while she was asleep and sailed away, while a second one said that he was on the ship when a wind blew the ship away from shore, and by the time he got back, Ariadne had already passed due to illness. Either way, the result was the same. For Theseus forgot all about his promise about the sail. When his father saw the black sail, he jumped off a cliff, committing suicide. So yeah, Daddy's dead now. Sorry. Say bye-bye, Daddy. Bye-bye, Daddy. Theseus, now a ruler, was wise and detached in a good way that allowed his kingdom to be the most prosperous it's ever been and ever will be. But of course, he was an adventurer by heart and sought it out. He went to the Amazons and ended up with a wife, Hippolyta, who bore him his son, Hippolytus, who he sent to his hometown to grow up as he did. After that, he was known for many other things that painted him an even more favorable picture. From saving more victims and to being part of the hunt for the Golden Fleece, to even fighting a man-eating boar. This is actually when he saved the life of his friend, Pirithous. Personally, I think he was more trouble than he was worth, but hey, that's me. This guy was always getting into trouble, but Theseus stuck by him all the way. I guess it helps that they automatically clicked as besties upon their meeting. Whatever. When Pirithous was to be married to a relative of the centaurs got extremely drunk and started a bar fight and tried to steal back the bride. Theseus, in turn, drove them out of the country. Sadly, their adventures came to an end when even Theseus could not save his good buddy. Pirithous wanted a second wife, for his previous one had passed, and made the dumbest decision to go after Persephone, of all people. You know, wife to the god of the underworld, Hades? Yeah, that one. As they made it down to the underworld to steal the technical devil's wife, and OMG, failed, never saw that coming. Hades had heard of their plan and decided to trick them into sitting in the chair of forgetfulness. Lucky for Theseus, though, he was saved by his cousin Hercules, who also tried to save his friend, but couldn't, since Hades knew it was Pirithous' plan and guarded him closely. He sits there to this day. Now, years later, Theseus was married again to Ariadne's sister, Phaedra, who upon meeting his son Hippolytus, was cursed by Aphrodite to fall for him. For you see, Hippolytus had grown to scorn love, for he was a follower of Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, and in turn scorned Aphrodite. And so, of course, Aphrodite, ticked about all this, decided to pull Hera and cause his stepmother to fall for him. Phaedra felt horrified for her feelings and decided to take her own life, not wanting to burden anyone with this knowledge. But her old nurse did not want this to happen and begged Hippolytus to fall for Phaedra. And of course, Hippolytus, horrified by the prospect of loving his father's wife, basically said, "Heck no!" Phaedra had heard what he said and became, in a word, vengeful. She did commit suicide, but also staged a fake letter to Theseus, saying it was Hippolytus' doing. In grief, Theseus blamed his son, saying, "O Poseidon, God, hear me while I curse him, and fulfill my curse." As Hippolytus was leaving by the seaside path, having been banished by his grieving father, a monster brought forth by his father's curse sprung up from the sea and fatally wounded him. Artemis, seeing the day's events, went down to Theseus and told him the truth, but said he was not to blame, to which Hippolytus agreed when he was brought forth. Hippolytus and his father managed to reconcile and hold each other one more time before he disappeared with Artemis to become part of the stars upon his death. Not long after this, Theseus' own death loomed over him, for he was visiting a supposed friend, King Lysimedes. Some say he was banished from Athens for one reason or another, but it doesn't really matter since the end result is the same, in which the king kills Theseus. Despite having been supposedly banished from Athens, they honored his death like no other had been honored before, for he was the one who protected the weak and the defenseless. That is the end, and I hope you liked it. I had a lot of help from my new friend Evan, who helped put together this video. Thank you for watching, and hopefully not falling asleep due to me boring you to tears. Bye!